When you retire, there are huge changes that need to be carefully managed. You suddenly have time freedom, but no income. And instead of building wealth, you have to spend it. And managing this transition can be a very difficult one. But in this video, I'm going to give you some guidance as to how to make it much easier. It's undoubtedly a huge mindset shift. And the harder that you've saved in the last few years of employment, the more difficult that transition could be. The financial independence, retire early mindset, I think, identifies too heavily with being a saver and not enough with creating a new life in retirement that you're really passionate about, and one where you're not afraid to invest in yourself and really achieve all your dreams. There are people who are retired with over £1 million in invested assets, and they want to buy something like a new motorhome, but they're held back by the fear that, or what if markets crash in the next, say, 6 to 12 months after I bought this motorhome? They're probably 100% invested in equities, and if they understood asset classes a bit more, even though they don't have to invest in them at the moment, they just need to understand how these asset classes like bonds or commodities or gold actually work and how they can maybe help with diversifying your portfolio in retirement, then I think they'd be much better prepared and in a much better position. But clearly you should bulk on spending money on things that you don't really need. Some people have a company car while they're working, and then when they retire, they go out and buy brand new car without realizing how often they're actually going to drive this car anyway, and that maybe a 3-year-old car would be just as good and a lot more suitable for their actual mileage needs. So there are withdrawal strategies for spending your money in retirement. The most common one is the 4% rule, which says that you can spend 4% of your wealth indexed for inflation and have only a 5% chance running out of money, according to historic data and a certain split between holding equities and bonds. And this could be useful if you're going to spend less than 4%, but it could also be a bit too restrictive, particularly in the early years of retirement. And possibly the focus is wrong. You're focusing on not running out of money, and that's kind of what ends up happening, and you actually build up maybe too much wealth. And the die with zero mentality is to get comfortable with spending money on things that really matter to you, and then in later life you could maybe downsize your house or buy an annuity if stock markets weren't kind to you. And the important thing is to look back on your life and the things you've done and be really happy and really proud of what you've achieved. Another withdrawal strategy would be to have some kind of cash buffer, maybe up to 5 years worth of expenditure. Then if you weren't happy with selling your equities because you thought the price wasn't very good, then you could just dip into your cash buffer. And a further way of looking at it would be to put your portfolio into certain buckets: short term, medium term, and long term. And then there's different assets, different sorts of funds, more value based defensive funds in maybe short and medium term buckets. And this way of ring fencing your money can be a useful way of seeing how you can keep track of its expenditure. And then also for the long term bucket, that's things that you're not going to access for 10 or more years. So you shouldn't really be worried about what's happening with that bucket on a day-to-day basis. And this sort of thing is going to help boost your confidence around expenditure in retirement. It's really important for such a major transition to have a plan how you think your money will last. And then you've got a glide path for your wealth as to where you are now and where your wealth might be at, say, age 80 or 90. And then you can compare each year how you're doing and adjust accordingly. So I offer a retirement calculator, wealth planning services, and if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description. One solution is to buy an annuity, so that's a guaranteed, often index linked income for the rest of your life. I've done a video that looks at this in a bit more depth. What this will do is force money into your bank account each month, so then you might as well spend it because you've still got the guaranteed income to prop you up no matter what happens in the stock market. There are a lot of emotional issues to deal with, things like the guilt of spending money or a scarcity mindset, a feeling that there's absolutely no way you want to go back to working 9 to 5. But the reality is, you save this money, you've earned it, and you deserve to spend it on things that you'll really enjoy and experiences that will live with you forever. And some of the ways to get around this would be maybe to have a coach as a sounding board or to look at your investing strategy. There are funds out there that have fabulous performance, and if you move away from being solely invested in passive funds in retirement, you can find some funds that will give you the reliability of returns and give you a bit more confidence around actually spending money in retirement. And if you need help finding such funds, then I offer a portfolio coaching service. And again, I'll put a link in the description. I do think that the enjoyment of your time is age specific. So for example, if you were to do a fly drive holiday to New Zealand, I think you'd get a lot more out of it if you were 55 than if you were 70, because with the latter, I think you'd be a lot more tired out from all the driving around. And so the best thing to do is to do these things earlier on in your life to front end load a lot of the expenditure and then look back on your life when you're older, thinking about all these great things that you did, rather than waiting until your portfolio is worth a certain amount of money before you commit to major expenditure. Fortunately, our wonderful government is making the transition from saver to spender a lot easier because of all the tax hikes they keep putting through. So we've got maybe tax-free cash in your pension that's under threat. That suggests you should maybe take it sooner rather than later. We've got pensions subject to inheritance tax, and there's no way that people want to leave 40% of some of their estate to the government. And then if you have a large pension and you let it grow too much, then you might find out you have to pay 40% income tax in order to fully get the benefits out of that pension. So it really tends to suggest that let's just enjoy life and make the transition to being a spender on things that really matter to us. The transition from saver to spender is not an easy one, but fortunately there are coaches like myself that can help you out with that and act as a sounding board. You need a plan as to how you might run down your money and what assets you might invest in. If you're interested in learning more, you can check out some of the links in the description of this video. And then also I've got a school community where I host some of my best work. And then also we have quite an active discussion there where people of a similar mindset share their experiences.